Good evening, Powderhounds and parents. Welcome to the 2020 Information Night. Normally this night's a lovely night where we get to actually meet in a room together. We get to chat face to face, you get to ask questions, and you get to find out all about this year's camp. Obviously 2020's been a little bit different, and so we're doing things a little bit differently. This video, which I'll run through, we'll just talk you through this year's camp and how it works and what Powderhound looks like. And then at the end of this, there'll be a link to the live Q&A where you can actually ask any questions that you want. So look, thanks for tuning in. I think it's always good to know that parents are interested in learning more about the camp that their kids want to go away on for a whole week. So I really appreciate you tuning in and finding out all about Powderhound. Let's get started. I'll run you through a little bit of the history of Powderhound first, and then we'll talk about specifics of this year's camp. So Powderhound started way back in 2002 out of the Gold Coast. A good friend of mine, Jeff Wilson, who's a local vet up there, he has a passion for the snow and a passion for snow sports, and he wanted to take kids from the Gold Coast, take them down to the snow, introduce them to snowboarding, and also tell them about Jesus. I happened to walk into a church on the Gold Coast a couple of months before Powderhound was leaving on that very first camp. And I gave Jeff a call. I saw a brochure, I gave Jeff a call, and he said, yeah, sure, come along, give us a hand as a leader. And so ever since then I've been involved. From 2004, 2005 onwards, we've pretty much been a New South Wales based camp running out of Port Macquarie, and nearly all of our kids come out of the Port Macquarie area from one of the local high schools. We are a camp just for high school age kids. Year 8 and up is what I normally say. I would add that a year 8 student that gets homesick and probably might struggle with the intensity and the pace of a really full-on camp week, they might struggle on Powderhound. Generally speaking, most of our kids come from year 9, 10 and 11. We have a partnership with the Point Community Church. That's a church based in Port Macquarie. We meet at Port High most weekends, except for during COVID, we meet online. We have had that partnership for a long time. They give us some financial oversight and guidance. They give us some accountability in terms of and insurance. So the Point Community Church gives oversight to the Powderhound organisation. One of the things about Powderhound, and I think this is what makes it really special, is we keep our numbers and leader ratios really small. So we have a leader for every 8 or 9 students. And that actually gives students the opportunity, or gives the kids on camp the opportunity to really get to know their leaders well, and our leaders get to really know the kids. So the leaders are a little bit like a camp parent for the week, a mum or a dad that will oversee the kids and look after the kids. Most of our leaders come from the Point Community Church. They're youth group leaders, they're young people who I know really well and who I've reference checked, and I'm confident will do a great job with your young people. Our motto for Powderhound hasn't changed in the last 18 years. Physically exhaust and spiritually challenge. We take away young adult Christian leaders to oversee and look after your young people, as I said. Each night during Powderhound, after we've finished on the snow, we run a series of talks and games, and it's lots of fun. But throughout the week we introduce kids to Jesus and Christian faith. We talk about why it's relevant. Why is a bloke that lived a few thousand years ago perhaps still relevant to this day? Kids generally come away from Powderhound actually really having enjoyed the night sessions. I'll sometimes tell the story about the kid who sits up the back with their arms crossed and they're like, I'm just here for snowboarding. But by the end of the week, they're actually really engaging, and I think they find it more relevant and more interesting than what they probably first thought. The snowboarding itself is obviously a bit of a highlight. We go hard on the snow every day. We're the first bus up there and we're the last bus to leave the mountain each day. It is physically exhausting being in that snow environment, being literally on your feet for the whole day. And so they are 5.5 really big days. Your young person will come back absolutely exhausted at the end of the week. The other thing that Powderhound is about is hanging out with friends. Many sports, and snowboarding is one of them, is much better done with a group of mates, and that's a really fun and enjoyable part of the camp. So if you're coming along with a group of friends, you're going to have a great time. For 2020, our dates are on the screen there. We leave on a Saturday night at about 8:30. We leave the Port Macquarie bus terminal and we head down through Thornlie, Sydney, Canberra. So if you're in Sydney or Canberra, or if you're down that way on holidays, although this year you're probably not going to be, then we can do pickups at those spots. But generally speaking, everyone gets on the bus at 8:30 on a Saturday night in Port Macquarie. We travel through the night, straight down to Jindabyne, where we arrive for breakfast on Sunday morning. We start the camp with an overnight bus trip, and so that's one good way to wear teenagers out. We try to encourage them to get some sleep, rarely do they, and so right from the go, the kids are tired, and as I said, it's a big week. We stay in Jindabyne at a great place called the Adventist Alpine Village, and they've been looking after us now for the last 18 years. Stan and his team are fantastic, and we stay there up to the snow each day, and we get home on Saturday the 18th, which is the Saturday just before school goes back. We arrive home at about 5 a.m, having left the snow Friday afternoon, travelling through the night to get home for Saturday morning. You probably won't see your teenager until Sunday because they'll probably be sleeping for most of that Saturday, I'd suspect. Not sure if we'll go to Thredbo or Perisher yet. We generally keep an eye on the snow conditions and we'll make that call late in the piece. Both have their advantages, both are fantastic, and regardless you'll have a great time. If we do go to Perisher, we catch the ski tube each day up through the mountains, and so that's a bit of a novelty as well. The cost for this year is $1,330, that's $30 more than last year. It includes everything except for your lunch each day. So we travel down by the bus, we catch the ski tube if we're at Perisher, your accommodation, your breakfast and your dinner. Our accommodation is lovely, underfloor heating, en suites within each room, bunk bed style accommodation, very comfortable, really nice setup, and the food's actually great. For camp food, it's amazing. Hire gear is all included, so your snowboard, your boots, your clothing, any safety gear, goggles, helmet and wrist guards. You get a 5.5 day lift pass, so our first day on the snow is the Sunday afternoon. We have a half day, and then we have 5 full days Monday to Friday. And lessons as well. Each day everyone has a lesson. Doesn't matter who you are or how long you've been snowboarding for, you can always get better. You can always learn from somebody that's more experienced than you, and the instructors down there are really good at pushing kids to that next level. So if you're picking it up really quickly, then the instructors will push you and you'll be doing jumps and going through the terrain park and all of that sort of stuff. And if you need a bit more time to learn some turns, then your instructors will cater for that as well. As with any camp, an organisation that lasts for 18 years, we have rules and we stick to those rules, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're still around. We've never had any trouble at all with this because we make our rules really clear to the kids and to the parents up front. Rules are on the screen there in front of you. We're an alcohol and drug-free camp. Snowboarding is probably the most fun and natural high you could have, and so we certainly don't tolerate any alcohol or drugs on our camp, and if there was a situation where that somebody brought something along, we would be calling mum and dad, we'd be putting you on a bus in Jindabyne and we'd be sending you home, and that would be at the parents' expense. So we make that pretty clear right from the start. You always snowboard in groups, or at least with 2 or 3 others, and somebody within your group must have a mobile phone just in case. So one of our rules is you never snowboard by yourself. That's a pretty boring thing to do anyway, but we always get kids to snowboard in groups of at least 2 or 3, and we talk them through once we're up on the mountain. We talk them through what to do if something goes wrong, if somebody gets injured. We have checkpoints throughout the day. This is our way of keeping contact with the kids, and we just say, look, here are the times that we're going to check in with kids. We actually physically meet in a particular location at different times of the day. That's where the leader will do a head count and just have a chat to the kids and make sure everyone's okay. And that's our way of just keeping track of everything and making sure everyone's doing well. We have lessons, they're compulsory, helmets are compulsory, and wrist guards are compulsory. Over the years, we've broken lots of wrists. We probably average an injury rate of about 7 to 8% in their broken wrists. Of all the years of Powderhound, 1 person has broken their wrist whilst wearing wrist guards. So my advice is very strongly, if you are learning to snowboard, wear wrist guards. We have to follow the resort and mountain rules, and we'll talk about those for kids once we get down there. And respecting yourself, each other and your leader. Our leaders are giving up time generally from work and holidays, so we ask for students to respect their leaders, but certainly we ask kids to respect each other. And when we talk about that, we talk about guys and girls, being accommodated in separate areas, and the guys respecting that the girls are doing their thing down there and they're not to go down to the accommodation area where the girls are, and likewise for the boys. Yeah, as I said, I don't expect we'll have any trouble with that. If there was a minor issue with some sort of aspect of the camp rules, we might just ask your son or daughter to have a day off the snow, and usually that sorts out things pretty quickly. But as I said, over the years, kids are great. Here's some suggestion on how to make the most of the camp week. Obviously it's cold at the snow, so bringing plenty of thermals, beanies, scarves, those sorts of warm weather gear are important. The outer layer that you are provided with is waterproof and windproof, so what you wear underneath your outer layer, that's the bit that's up to you. So, long sleeve t-shirts, long sleeve thermals, those sorts of things. Australia doesn't get too cold. If you get wet, then you can get cold, but generally speaking, -5, -6, we probably don't get temperatures much lower than that, and with a good outer layer and some thermals on, you're generally quite comfortable. Socks, plenty of thick socks to go in your snowboard boots. Pretty straightforward. Sunscreen and lip balm, pretty important. Lunch on the snow is super expensive, so I always advise bring snacks in your pockets. So load up on your muesli bars, your snack bars, chocolate bars, those sorts of things. And each day, just put a couple in your pockets, and that'll save having to buy lunch on the snow each day, which can be pretty expensive. Goggles or sunglasses at least. Goggles are far better. If you can get a pair of goggles from somewhere, a lot of people have them at home and you might be able to borrow, or sometimes you can get them pretty cheaply on the on the sale somewhere. They're not that cheap on the snow to buy. Waterproof gloves. In the past we've been able to hire these. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year with Corona things happening. So finding a pair of waterproof gloves would be pretty important. Again, you might have family members and what have you that you can borrow from. Aldi normally has a sale at this time of year, although I don't think that's happening this year. You definitely should bring a pillow for the bus trip, and you need a sleeping bag or a sheet for your bed. There's doonas and sort of blankets provided, and you need a towel as well. Just before we go to our live Q&A, probably the question on everyone's lips is Powder Hound actually going to happen this year? That's a really good question, one that I don't know the answer to at this stage. We've made the decision to make the final call on Friday the 12th of June. If need be, we might make that at about 11 o'clock at night if the government's about to make some new announcements. I'm really hopeful that we get to celebrate our 18th Powder Hound this year. I'm not super confident that we will get to celebrate our 18th Powder Hound. Will the snow resorts open? I'm not sure. New Zealand resorts look like they're going to open. Will the Australian resorts? I'm sure they want to after the bushfires through the summer and then coronavirus. They'll be definitely keen to open, I'm sure, and if they do, that's the first part. But then will we be able to safely, and will we be allowed to put 50 students on a bus and travel down to the snow? All of those questions I just don't know at this stage. It looks like the government is gradually easing restrictions, and so I'm hopeful. At the end of the day, the government will make the decision as to whether or not we can go ahead, and we need to follow the advice of the government. So we'll have to wait and see. Friday the 12th of June, keep your eye out on the Facebook page. In the event that we did have to cancel, we would obviously refund all monies to people. We won't be asking for full payment before the 12th of June, so that $100 deposit that people have made, we'll give that back. Right now, there'll be a link, hopefully come up just below where I'm standing, and that'll be a link to the live Q&A. If you want to ask any questions, if you want to have a chat about anything, just jump in there. As I said, fantastic to see you through the lens, and look forward to, hopefully, taking your young people to the snow in about 2 months' time. Thanks a lot. See ya.